All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are super excited today. I have a very special guest. She is a good friend, a mentor, like a little sister. We've had great conversations. We met, back in 2021. I've watched her grow, excel, and do some creative things in the military community space. My good friend, Olivia Valerio.
Thank you, Quincy. Really appreciate you having me on and just everything that you're doing for our military community here in San Antonio and honestly, even beyond the state lines.
Well, we appreciate that, and back at you. Like I said, I've been kind of following you, watching you grow. We've had some great conversations about the military transition from stemming from the work that you do in the community with at a certain point with hiring our heroes, right, and now on with the major grocer supply chain HEB, and all that you're doing over there. So I'm excited about this conversation. It's almost a full circle moment, right? I know we've talked about a lot, we've done a lot, but here we are.
This is true. Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Let's see. Well, I'm here to answer your questions. And I know
Okay.
that we said this is going to be a conversation, which I feel is probably the best way to move about this, just because I think that that's where a lot of the reality comes into play and just being able to tackle some of the more crucial conversations and
Yeah.
topics head on. So I'm here. Ask away.
All right, let's go. We're going to jump right in. But first off, we want to give a shout out and a special thank you to our sponsor, Game Day, as well as Chatterbox, who always welcomed us with warm, open hands, allowing us to do this creative work for our military community. So shout out to Chatterbox and Game Day. All right, so military spouse,
Yes.
mom,
Mom of a sailor.
mom of a sailor,
Yes.
right? So your kid obviously drank the Kool-Aid.
He drank the Kool-Aid. He wanted to get out of the house. No, I'm just playing.
No?
He did. He started school. I think that in hindsight, had we listened to him a little bit more and a little bit better, we would have realized that military was something he actually genuinely wanted to pursue
Yeah.
post high school. He was a COVID graduate, so there
Wow.
was just a bit more hesitancy in letting him go. I am 100% that smother, so I have no problem admitting that I have been that helicopter mom. Thankfully, it served my children well, so I
Yeah.
still stand by that. But, lessons learned. He's our oldest, and after a few years in school, he just still had that calling to go and do that. And so, thankfully, my husband, with his 20 years in the military, just
Yeah.
used his connections and utilized his network to just help our son make the best choice possible for himself.
Yeah.
That ended up being the Navy. He's landed a wonderful rating and calls every day, is enjoying his life in Florida. We went to see
Wow.
him a couple times. But so far, he's doing well, and he's established his career, which I know that he's extremely proud of and happy
Yeah.
for. And, college again is on his horizon. He's already looking at that, which was my ultimate hope. However,
Yeah.
I know that he is in the service for the genuine intention and purpose of serving his country. Everything along the way that comes with that, the benefits, the experiences, through his own lived experience as,
Yeah.
an Air Force brat,
Shout out to the Air Force and all the Air Force brats
Yeah,
out there. So
yeah.
you're not only you're not only served as a military spouse, but now you're a military mom as well.
I am. Right when I thought it was okay to just fully exhale and take that time, he went ahead and just kind of got
Wow.
me right back shut up. So now I'm kind of holding my breath a little bit, but I think that's natural as a parent.
Yeah.
I mean, we've walked through this life before. Let me think here. So my husband was in 20 years.
Yeah.
I was with him for 21 years. I was with him the day he walked into MEPS, and then the day, of course, that he was able to finally receive his DD 214. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of starting all over again. Did not think that that was in the cards
Just
for me.
when you thought all
Right.
those stressors were
Yeah, gone.
of the military
Absolutely.
life, right?
Yeah.
Your son ended up joining the Navy and becoming a sailor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's back up a few. So I know your husband.
Mm-hmm.
I met Eddie a long time ago when we were at the USO.
Yes.
And I think he was working for a contractor. We've also played pickleball together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. I've seen some things, but we'll talk about that later.
I was hoping you'd leave that alone, but it's
No,
okay. We're having a real conversation.
We're
you
having a
said,
real
so that's
conversation.
fine.
Right. So let's talk about where you grew up
Mm-hmm.
and how things kind of aligned for you to become a military spouse. El Paso, Texas, correct?
Paso, born and raised, 915, just, a few miles from the Mexico border. My mom always reminds me I could see the border from the hospital room. So back kind of just talking about my beginnings, born and raised in El Paso. My father was an Army veteran, separated after a few years. My mother is an Army brat born at Fort Ord. And
Okay.
so the military heritage within my family runs deep. That is how they ended up in El Paso. That is
Okay.
how they met. They decided to raise their family in El Paso, my sister and myself. My father's African-American. My mother is...
He's black.
He's black. Listen, I don't know how real you want to get here.
We're
My
gonna
mother,
get real.
my mother is Mexican American, so
Okay.
And at that time, I'm not going to date myself, but at that time, they decided rather than going back to his home state of North Carolina, they were going to stay in El Paso. It was a lot more diverse due to Fort Bliss being right there, and my mother's family was there. So that's where I grew up. Lived there until I married my husband.
Okay.
And then we went far down the road to Holloman.
Holloman.
Yep. And I never thought that I would have married someone in the military, ever.
Okay.
On the contrary, that was something that I was like, I'm never going to do that, ever, ever. My grandmother was a volunteer with the Red Cross for, I think, nearly 30 years.
Wow.
And I remember on some of the weekends, she would take call, and we spent a lot of time with my grandmother. I mean, and we
Mexican culture.
Correct, yeah, all the time, And so we would go with her, and we thought it was fun, but she'd have to go into some of the buildings late at night, and it was a bit creepy. It was beautiful, I think. Fort Bliss at that time, beautiful. Everything well manicured, but it was just nothing that I wanted for my life.
Okay.
Both my parents, blue-collar workers. My mother was a nurse for 40-some-odd years. My father worked for the electric company and retired from the electric company. And so along the way, of course, just as any parents would, we want you to ensure that you don't make the same mistakes that we did. They pushed us to college. Thankfully, that is where I landed. But then I met my husband.
At what age? May I ask?
Gosh. How old was I? 17 when I met my husband.
17.
I was 17.
You were
yeah.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked that is because this is one of those topics for military spouses that a lot of folks don't realize and understand. A lot of our military spouses are 17, 18, 19 years old, right? When they meet their active duty spouse, and then they choose to travel across the world with them. And in your particular case, you guys went, 3 hours up the road to Alamogordo?
We were like an hour and a half.
Hour and a half
yeah.
to Alamogordo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I graduated high school about a year early, and then I was able to begin school right there in Las Cruces and fully independent at 17 years old, driving across the mountain twice a week. And it was great. But like I said, then I met my husband, continued on that path. And from the moment that I met him, he was determined, I want to join the military. I want to join the military. Had already begun working with a recruiter. And, so to me, not a big deal. I was just not that invested. But then, of course, things change. And I was like, hey, this is it. And he decided to go ahead and leave. And he did. And again, with him, shed those tears the day he left at MEPS right there at Fort Bliss. Yeah. We still have the pictures that, the parents like to bring out and embarrass us with at times. But that was it. Honestly, I mean, we were from day one just kind of like, all right, cool. And then, of course, it progressed. And that was the end of the story. Although I should have stayed in school, to be honest with you.
What were you studying?
I was studying at the time English.
English, okay.
Yes, yeah.
So you want to be a teacher? Or?
I did. I liked that. And as you found out, I'm a stickler for grammar.
Yes,
you found that
yes.
out. Okay.
You're a stickler for grammar. We'll talk about that in another episode.
But yeah, so that's the path that I was on. I had completed my first 2 years. And then we went to Holloman. And I think that just looking back now, that's where I think I kind of fell into that path. I think that there may be another word, a rut, I would say as well. It could be a rut of just that military life cycle, military spouse life cycle.
Military spouse, because
right.
it's different
Military spouse life cycle, where it's like, okay, now I'm here. I'm going to set up my home, which I did with him, of course. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and begin school again.
Okay.
Well, not so much, because then there comes our oldest, right?
Okay.
And so our oldest was born like at 2:00 in the morning on September 12th, 2001.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So it was just a really, I don't know.
It was a rough time.
It was just, the blessing in all that is that we were only an hour and a half from home. Yeah. So we had a huge support system, which for me really did speak to, I think, the different experience that some military spouses have.
Okay.
He didn't join the military. We got married and then left across the world or left across the country.
So the isolation piece,
I didn't experience that right away. No, not right away. Okay. I know now, and I knew then too. I didn't go back to work right away or go back to school because that was a choice.
Yeah.
That was a choice that I made once we decided to go ahead and establish our family. And we liked number one so much that we decided to have number two. And so we decided to move forward with that and begin building our family. And That's where my focus was. But that was the
Was the
choice that,
family.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
the family. That was the choice that we made. And then, we were able to move. He got the basic preference.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they still do that, but
BOP.
yeah, we
Yep.
got BOP to McCord. Absolutely loved
Okay.
McCord. This was way before joint basing.
Yeah.
Loved McCord.
But now they're taking you from the comforts of
Yes.
home to where you can possibly experience some of that isolation.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And, we did, I think, a little tiny bit, but that's where baby number 3 comes in.
Oh, wow. You guys are busy.
So we do have 4 kids in total.
Okay.
3 boys, stair-step boys. They're all 2 years apart. And then we have our daughter, which
Yep.
I believe is the same age as one of your daughters.
Yep.
And she's about 4 years after the youngest boy. But McCord was a really special time, I think, for us because we were fully away. We had to really just lean in and support each other, learn from each other, learn with each other. And that's where I think I began looking at the military spouse lifestyle as, ugh. Because
Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? She said, "Ugh."
I did.
So I take that as you were not that typical military spouse that embeds themselves into the installation and all of the resources that are out there for spouses.
So no, I have to agree. Yes, I did not, and
Okay.
only because I'm an observer.
Yeah.
So I get there, and whether it was at Holloman or at McCord, we absolutely did want to experience and immerse ourselves within the area. We lived on base. That was a choice. We wanted to make sure we had a bit of freedom and like security. And I don't know if that's maybe just something that's kind of like a facade, but we felt safe on base.
Yeah.
It was great. And we had the kids. So we were able to establish, community with the individuals, our neighbors, my husband's coworkers, but I never truly felt 100% comfortable or just, gung-ho for the key, or I'm sorry, what are they?
Yeah.
The key spouse
spouses,
groups. Yeah, key spouse groups.
MFRC,
Yes,
readiness centers, all
you
that
know,
stuff.
I was young, and I remember going to some of the centers and just trying to get some information, again, to just re-engage with my education, et cetera. And it was just so general and standardized. And even at that young age, I knew better.
Yeah.
I knew better. And that was before, the just broad internet that we have now. So I would do what I could on the internet and just kind of look for different things. In that, I ended up getting my husband in school before I ended up going back to school.
But did you feel as though it's not that the resources weren't there? It's just because of your strong upbringing, because of your personality, you went out and you did it for yourself.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And the thing with this, like I said, when I would go to the centers, and this is not any type
not
of,
a knock on them, no.
right? Yeah, this is not a criticism at all. It was just very standardized, and I knew, I was like, there has to be more out there for us. There has to be more for those of us that want to pursue our education, further our employment skills, our establish our careers. And mind you, we had those 3 boys, right? So I was, going back and forth with my husband. At one point, I did land a job at a community college up on the hill there with the English. I was actually working in the writing center. And I tell you what, I liked it.
Yeah.
My husband, extremely supportive, this guy. But one of our kids hated it. He was a baby, hated it. We put him in daycare. He just was not compatible. And we tried it. And we said, okay, we're going to give it.
I wonder where he gets that from.
I don't know. He's just very, stubborn, and he knows what he likes. He absolutely knows what he doesn't like, and he'll let us know. I don't know where he gets that from. But at that point, we did have to just kind of reassess and evaluate what we were doing, and we just decided, okay, looking at the finances as far as the money that I was bringing home, the pay, looking at our son who was just, having the worst time, and we said, fine, I'll just stay home.
So you chose not to continue on to
correct.
work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Did
made
you
that
have,
choice.
as a military spouse at that point, did you have your education at that point?
I did not complete, no.
Okay.
Because of the fact that would have, what I wanted to do was start and finish.
Okay.
And I know at that point it would be part-time. It was not at the point where I was ready to go ahead and fully commit to that part when it came to my professional and personal development. So did not. What I wanted to do was to continue earning money because, we were, at that time, a one-income home because once I stopped working, it was just my husband. And although we've always maintained a comfortable lifestyle, I'm like, well, we want to go do things. We're here, we're there. And I don't remember exactly how, but the FCC, the Family Child Care, came up. And I was like, I'll just go to a meeting again because I'm inquisitive like that. Yeah. So then I went and I was like, I can do this. This isn't hard. And I'm there and I'm like, I can find a manageable number. So my 3 plus, 2 or 3 more. And that's what I did for, I think, 3, 4 years while we were there. And at times, I made more money than my husband.
Wow.
And it was great. I enjoyed it. It was wonderful for my children because they had the interaction with other kids. I love and thrive on structure and routine, and that is exactly what I needed to establish for that home. It was a fantastic experience. I was able to meet individuals I never would have met, other military families, and it was just a really great experience. And beyond all that, other military spouses who were looking to establish themselves as well. And they were looking to do so and to take that experience and continue on with entrepreneurship down the line.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful lesson. I learned that that's nothing that I wanted to do long term.
Yeah.
And so once we PCS'd back to New Mexico, which was heart-wrenching for me. Yeah.
So you go from McCord
Yes.
back to
New Mexico because it was a Green Door
Kirtland,
assignment.
or
No, we went back to, well, he was assigned in the desert. So in between Las Cruces and White Sands, we were in Las Cruces. And so it was home. I didn't want to go home. We were in the military. I wanted to go overseas. And so it was rough at that point just because it was not what I wanted to do, honestly. But everything happens, I think, honestly, for a reason and a blessing. And went back to New Mexico, again, surrounded by family, which after I calmed myself down, realized truly it's a wonderful thing. It was a blessing. Finished my education, had our daughter.
So now you're a family of four on your third.
Family of six with 4 children.
With 4 kids.
Yeah.
And now you have your education.
I do.
Okay.
And at that point, because again, we're still with the youngest one, I was not in any rush to just firmly establish a full-time career.
So as great point, but as a military spouse, I'm assuming at that point, you guys were at what, maybe your 7th or 8th year in the military?
8.
8 years, right? So, so it took you about 8 years traveling, between New Mexico and Washington to get your degree.
Yes.
Is that typical, you think, of a military spouse? Someone leaving home, choosing to marry an enlisted person?
So I'm going to say no. And I say no only because of my experience working, when I began working with the military community. This was about 10 years ago in Japan.
Okay.
Right under 10 years ago. One of the roles that I did hold was education, professional development advisor, and I had a lot of spouses that came my way.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved that job, speaking with them, learning about them, learning about their pursuits. Some were older than me and had not completed their education, their undergraduate education. Some had not even completed their GED. So there were programs that we were trying to plug them into. So there was me, right, in 2008 thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so old finishing my degree.
Yeah.
And then I come across other spouses and I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart just hurt for them, right?
Yeah.
Because I want them, whether or not they choose to use their degree immediately like myself, they have that ability, the freedom, the capability, and they have that sense of accomplishment, which I think ultimately is what they were seeking, to be honest.
Fulfillment, a sense of accomplishment, a listening ear, resources. In all my time as a first sergeant, those are some of the things that typically come up when you talk to a military spouse, right? But I'm always baffled and amazed that sometimes folks just don't take advantage of the resources that are in front of them. But are there barriers? Are there other circumstances, outliers? Those are the things that, during my time as a first sergeant that would keep me up. It's like, how can I help this spouse? How can I help this family, right? But listening to you, you are a hard charger. You are someone who was like, no, I'm just not going to settle. I'm going to build my career. And that's evident because of the success you have now and the accomplishments that you do have. What's one thing during that period that you still hold true for today, right? That still rings true. Is there something that jumps out or stands out?
Determination, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I do have to caveat because of what you said. Were there resources that, may be not sought out after the military spouse, or are there barriers? I do just have to really be transparent. I was in a unique position.
Yeah.
I completed my degree back home where I started. And so I did have the ability to leave my children with my parents. I had that support. I didn't have to pay for childcare, right? As far as the resources, I found that I was one of those spouses. It came to a point years later, I did not utilize the resources. I got to a point where I wasn't seeking those resources in depth. And it really affected me in regard to my career growth. But trying to think about something that I continue to bring with me. It's just the determination.
The determination.
What am I determined to do? What am I determined to not have happen,
Yeah.
or allow within our family, regardless of where we end up, regardless of when he retires. It's just the determination either way. I do want this, I don't want that. That really just kind of paves the path for how I make decisions or strategies, I guess I should say. How I strategize making plans, because all I can do are make plans. And I think we've all, in life can realize that we make as many plans as we want. At some point in time, we're going to have to pivot.
Yeah.
We're going to have to veer completely
Huge
off course, right? And that's at times what happens. I mean, we've had to do it ourselves and just realize, okay, what are we determined to do? What is our end goal? How do we go from getting off course back to where we initially wanted to be?
Yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit. Now you're in Okinawa as a military spouse, right? What was that experience like?
Beautiful, and not physically, like the location, the geography, but it was just a really beautiful experience to be completely detached from everything, having to relearn yourself. And I think that because, I mean, we had our kids when we were young, I had to relearn myself. And I think that was probably one of the most beautiful aspects of being overseas, was getting to know who Olivia is, because I was always, Valerio's wife or Jordan's mom or whomever else. And that was fine. But I think that for such a long time, I just didn't realize that that's who I had become, who I'd become. And so once, it kind of hit me like, oh my gosh, like I'm Olivia, like not just Jordan's mom. That's where I think a lot of the self-reflection came in. And then again, it just put a magnifying glass on that determination. What do I want to do?
It's funny you say that, not to cut you off, but when you think in terms of traveling through the military community and different military installations, it's always that stigma for the spouse. Oh, that's the colonel's wife. Oh, that's the shirt's wife. Oh, that's such and such wife. And you don't necessarily identify or I don't recognize you as, like you said, Olivia.
As an individual. We lose our individuality, whether it's through becoming a spouse or a parent or a caregiver, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And so that is where I think I'm very visual. So I think in my mind, I could see that playing out, and I had to rein that back in really quickly,
How hard was that though? Like,
I think a little bit difficult because I want results. Like I need to see the tangible results. And so not being able to control that, and I think that's what it is really. Not being able to control that was, oh gosh, that was a lesson in and of itself.
Yeah.
And once I was provided the opportunity to begin working there through MCCS, I was ready to go, There were little collateral duties that were not included, which again challenged me to be a different person, a better person. But initially at the moment, I was just having the worst panic attack ever, I think. But that was such a great experience for me personally. It really helped me to, again, just find myself as an individual at that point in my life.
At that point, right? So Okinawa, we were stationed in Okinawa for 3 years.
Same.
My wife had resigned her position in the Air National Guard to accompany me there and the kids. But she didn't work for like the first year, right? Because there's this thing, the SOFA agreement for one, but there's this thing to where these host nations sometimes you'll have some of the jobs that go to support agencies. Some of those jobs will be held for local nationals or folks that are coming in with priority or contractors, right? And I can remember that being, mentally challenging and draining for her because she was an E6 or a tech sergeant getting ready to put on E7.
Yeah.
She resigned her position, and now we're in Okinawa, and she can't get a job. So what she chose to do was to go back and get her master's degree during that time, and then she got a job, I want to say the last year that we were there, right? Did you experience anything like that, or were you able to get a job right off the bat in Okinawa?
No, it was similar experience. First, I think, like you had mentioned previously, some of the barriers that I experienced in Okinawa were self-imposed.
Okay.
So, well, I shouldn't say all of them. There were several that I think were self-imposed. When we first got there, I was all about learning regarding the new culture, et cetera. But I think after we kind of settled in, I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck, having to learn how to drive on the other side of the road. That was mentally a little just wild for me. So just, I mean, simple things, right? But to me, it created an impediment. I allowed
Mm,
that barrier to exist for myself. So once I was like, okay, Olivia, you got to get it together, began looking for work. It was less than a year. Honestly, it wasn't too long before I was able to actually just get the interview. I think I put in maybe just not even a handful of resumes.
okay.
So again, not typical to some of the experiences that other military spouses have, but thankfully, I went in for the interview and they were like, "Hey, a few days later, here's the offer." And I really did love that job. It was great. Dual hatted because there was a hiring freeze. So
Oh,
at the
wow.
time, it was stressful,
Yeah.
but I learned so much because I had to. It was just like trial by fire. And here you're going to learn this through immersion. And today you're presenting this. And I'm like, how, what? Well, here's the SOP. So I'm trying to, file through it to learn really quickly and recite this and that and everything else. But the biggest shock to me, which they did not include, was the fact that I would have to assist facilitating the Marine, what is it, Personal Readiness Seminar, PRS,
Mm,
every single Monday. My partner and I, whom was awesome, yin and yang, her energy and my energy, we just fit very well. We had to present to 100 plus Marines every single Monday.
newcomers, like a newcomers,
Newcomers.
or okay,
Once in a while, we have
orientation.
a few sailors come in. Yeah, that was just nerve wracking. I didn't like being in front of people. I
Yeah.
didn't like having to speak. I can take care of everything on the back end. I can write you out an SOP. I didn't want to be in front of everyone. That was one of the collateral duties that they did not.
They didn't tell you about
No,
that.
no.
Additional duties,
By the way, you're
yeah,
gonna, and I was like,
plus
oh
ones,
Lord,
all that good stuff.
yeah.
Um, what did your resume look like at that point? Were there holes in
Oh,
it?
absolutely. And there was a lot of jumping around. So again, because I chose to not work full time, I did a lot of focus within education when we were back in New Mexico. So I did some contract work with the private company there that was in alignment with the school district. And then when my daughter went back to school, when she started school, I should say, I chose to go ahead and work as an educational assistant in the school, which was great
Was it
because
volunteer or work or
no, it was
actual?
work. It was an
Okay,
actual job.
okay.
And that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I feel like I keep saying that about a lot of the jobs that I've had,
No,
but I honestly can't say that I've had a bad, just horrific experience. That was great because, I was right there with my kids, all four at the time were in the same school. It was a small environment. I had a taste of what Dodia,
yeah.
may be, and that is a whole other experience. So if you guys have never been or had the experience of having your children at a Department of Defense school, I have to say that was just for me life changing when it came to education. It was
Yeah.
just such a great experience.
Yeah.
That opened the door for that, and I was able to fulfill my goal, be with them, make sure that they were good to go. Um, my husband had gotten a short tour to Korea
Okay.
unaccompanied. We had an EFMP child, so we couldn't go.
Wow.
So I wasn't really looking to establish myself, put roots in New Mexico of all places, but we knew we were going to be leaving. So
Yeah.
that was the perfect job for me at that point in time. Busy kids playing sports here and there
Yeah.
and everywhere else.
Typical military
Yeah.
spouse life, but you did have some holes
I did.
and some jumping around in your resume.
Yeah.
Did any of that come up during the interview or?
No, it did not. So for that particular role, it was more, let's focus on, what you're going to be doing regarding the presenting for some of the smaller courses.
Yeah.
A lot of questions about myself and how I would manage certain situations, but there was no addressing, okay, well, we see that you worked here. We see that you did that. Why is it differ? What is this time off in your resume? But again, this was a military organization. So
Yeah.
I'm sure,
It was
beyond a
typical.
doubt, yes, they've
Yeah.
had so much experience working with military spouses. Of course, I did feel the need to offer some explanation and justify why there may be gaps, this and that. I had my children, I was helping care for my alien
Yeah.
grandmother, et cetera. But they were fantastic when it came to that. And I'm going to be honest with you, right now I'm trying to think. I don't think I've had one work experience where they looked at my resume and the company or the organization was like, well, what happened here? What
Yeah.
happened within these 5 years? But I think that actually took place during the interview where I was thorough regarding my life as a military spouse, but I've also only ever really worked within that
That community.
community, right? Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about making the choice to come to San Antonio, and then I want to go into your first job once you got here.
Mm-hmm.
What was the deciding factor to move to San Antonio?
Big Blue. So
Okay.
our very last year in Okinawa, my husband was deployed. to Afghanistan. So he was gone. I think it was supposed to be like 6 months. He was gone like 8 months, 9 months, and was supposed to come back literally like 30 days before our Deros. And so, I mean, in between all that, I'm working. I was the one leading, buying a house, sight unseen here in San
Yeah.
Antonio, working with the kids, getting
Yeah.
everything lined up, paying off lunch accounts to make sure all
Is
the
that
good
typical
stuff.
for a military spouse?
Absolutely. So this is where when individuals are like, well, what do you do as a military spouse? No, think back to everything that you do, because I tell you what, it is no easy task to make sure that a child, 4 children, yourself, everything's good to go.
Yeah.
The logistics, you were LRS, right?
I was LRS.
I tell you what, you
Soup,
should have
soup.
talked to somebody over there, because when the Marines are walking in and walking out with big smiles and I'm waiting, I was like, what is going on
Yeah.
here in this, it's what it is. I was just the spouse, right?
Yeah.
I was just the spouse. And it just compounded some of the challenges that we had PCSing back stateside.
Okay.
So it was rough. I had to quit my job early
Yeah.
from over there, which I
Typical
love
of
that
a
job.
military
It
spouse?
was rough. That part I felt like it just kind of started that. I don't even call it a journey. I call it a trek, because a trek is more rigorous, right? You gotta have that gumption to just get up in the morning and make sure things are taken care of, or kind of wallow in, oh, it's another day of this. No, I had to get up. He wasn't home. We had these kids. A typhoon was coming. All this
Oh,
stuff.
man.
I ain't to tell you.
Funny story. You mentioned typhoon. We were PCSing from Okinawa to Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay.
And it was October of 2014, and a typhoon rolled in while we were in TLF, and we got extended for like 10 days.
Oh my gosh, no.
We finally leave after the typhoon kind of rolled through, and we got to Colorado Springs mid-October timeframe, and beautiful 75-degree weather. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna love it here. 2 days later, the sky opened up and it snowed from October to June. So yeah, sidebar, but why San Antonio? You said Big Blue.
Yes, Air Force decided where we went.
Okay.
So in the midst of all of that, unusual chaos, I don't think we'd had a PCS like that before. He's sending me some of the locations that he was going to be eligible for.
Yeah.
San Antonio, I think, was one, and then there were some up in the Midwest, and I was just like, no, I'm over this. I am over it. I'm over it. No. And to be honest, we had decided, okay, this next PCS, it's going to be our last, because again, I was over it. And, he had only intended to spend 20 years. He was coming up. He had maybe about a couple years before he got there. And so we were like, okay, this is going to be it. So we wanted to go back to where our family was, to be honest with you. Closest place, Holloman.
Ooh.
Yeah, nobody wants to go there, right? So we knew, okay, this is going to be the plan. Nobody wants to go there.
No.
They're going to go ahead and just allow us to go fill that spot where we'll retire, and then actually go, a few miles down the road where we want to go ahead and just kind of plan our routes. And so we thought, okay, cool. Nobody wants to go there. They don't want to send us there either.
Wow.
Well, then we find out, of course, just not realizing, because of the EFMP situation, San Antonio was going to be the best place out of the locations they offered. Plus, it took care of everything that we needed for our child. So we said, okay, we'll go to San Antonio. We had been here, several times. We knew how busy it was. We were like, okay, it'll be fine. Nothing. I looked up the schools, began looking at everything. We had determined where we wanted to buy a house, got that process started, and we ended up, coming to San Antonio. I think it was December 31st, 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So we came here. I mean, whole family. We got a dog in Okinawa, which I don't know why. I was outvoted at that point in time.
Yeah.
And so got the dog, flown over here, everything taken. Yeah, it was just, I don't know. That was a rough PCS, which I hear is common for individuals PCSing to San Antonio. It's not the easiest move. So not quite sure. Yeah, this has been several people that I've spoken with, and it's just
not an easy move.
No.
Wow. Well,
No.
when I decided to retire in October, November, I think Marty and the kids finished school, and in May they chunked the deuces and they drove back here to San Antonio, and I closed things out in Colorado Springs, drove back and forth, flew back and forth, and then got here in like November of that year. And so it was, I guess ours was a little different, right? She came forward, got a job, got an apartment, got us set up. And then I followed on, right? But something you said when you were talking about supply and logistics, right? the resume of all the work that you had to do as a military spouse, right? What should that resume look like? What are some of the things you should add, right?
Let's see. Prior to my knowledge that, the knowledge that I've been able to acquire now, absolutely the project management. And I
Yeah.
know that that is one that I'm not going to say taboo. That is a broad term. But as
Yeah.
long as, I was specific regarding that, I mean, there's just so much, honestly.
Yeah.
Looking at every
Resourcing,
case management,
case management,
you know,
administrative personnel.
goodness gracious, the finance part of it, ensuring that everything was lined up. Because again, we were in Kadena, great cola, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that we
I
were,
miss the
I
cola.
know, I do too, tell you what. Everything was set up and nothing was touched because we're buying the house and,
Yeah.
making sure that when we got back here, we had transport, just everything. I mean, financial advisor, travel agent, everything.
Program manager.
Goodness,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, that's we coming from some of the employment opportunities I've had and that you've had, obviously, those are some of the things that we advise, I'm sure, our military spouses to look at.
Yeah.
Don't shortchange themselves because they have a lot of experience. They understand the military installation. They understand the lifestyle. They've done coaching. They've done developing.
Right.
Some have done business development, whether it's online with Mary Kay, Avon, et cetera. And I'm rattling some of that off, right, because I've watched my wife throughout her journey do some of those things as a military spouse. And I'm sure and I know that there are other military spouses who are out there that have taken advantage of some of those business opportunities.
Absolutely. And at times it's, I know, maybe something that they utilize as a placeholder.
Yeah.
While they are in a situation similar to, what we were in Okinawa, and other times they find that's their footing. They want to become budding entrepreneurs and they're able to establish themselves and begin learning more about that area. And other times it's because they have to be able to just make ends meet, right?
Yeah.
And so there are different reasons why, but I absolutely 100% agree with you. We cannot shortchange ourselves. And I say we because I know we had a conversation a few weeks ago and there was an individual that was in one of the classes and she's like, well, I'm just the military spouse.
Yeah.
Right away, I connected with that more than someone else who was like, I'm a military spouse.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, a matter of personality. But at times, I know I've shortchanged myself at times just because I am typically, the observant, quieter one, because I do want to get a sense of, what's the audience or who am I with or what are these opportunities or even just, good old imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I don't have that experience. I don't know that well enough. But then, I'll be in the car driving and I'm like, wait a minute, I did all this.
Yeah.
I did all that. I handled kids, these, it's whatever the case may be. Individuals of every rank, to be honest with you, being able to communicate. So just being able to manage those relationships and just simultaneously succeed, right?
Yeah. And one of the things, that reminds me, one of the things that, kind of as a first sergeant I witnessed is anytime a commander would come into office and say, hey, first sergeant, we have this dignitary coming to visit. He or she is a military spouse. Would you mind, gathering some military spouses together to kind of speak with this person? Sure, no problem, I got it. So I would go find the Olivias, right? The enlisted, often those who, a couple of kids, their spouse is junior enlisted. I know for whatever reason that they've, come to this installation at 18 or 19 years old. They may have worked at Dairy Queen or Walmart, right? Because 83% of our military service at times is the enlisted population. So it was important to me to showcase that raw military spouse who I know needs to tell that military spouse service. And I think that's why, when I thought in terms of who can I talk to, it was Olivia, right, to tell that story. But it would frustrate me because that commander would push back and say, well, why don't you get the lieutenant's wife or the major's spouse and have them? Oftentimes, that individual was a little bit more polished. So it's telling a false narrative.
So I think that, I don't know. So I know we were talking in regard to that particular word, polished. I think that maybe not more polished, but there's just already been a sense of, hey, let's come over here and let's groom you.
Yeah.
And maybe that might be a hot take word as well. But,
or they were already educated.
well, I think I've met a lot of enlisted educated spouses as well. So the thing is that I think, of course, with the enlisted side versus the commission side, and versus again, the verbiage just is very delicate to me because
Yeah.
I don't want to ever create that division between spouses based off of spousal ranks because I think we do that enough on
Yeah.
our own. It's just different development regarding the two, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, I absolutely agree. There needs to be accurate representation when it comes to military families, right?
Yeah.
And that includes, yes, many times, oftentimes, the enlisted spouses. But to your point, that's not typically who is brought out. I totally understand. But again, it's just a matter of, I think, preparation and discussing, but having just really an inclusive overview of what is comprising this military community. That is something that I think we should work towards, even now. And I know that you're talking about a experience during your time active duty. Even to this day, I think that that's something that we should still be striving for, because my experience was, the young military spouse, because I followed my husband. I just couldn't, I didn't want him to go. He didn't want me to leave either. So it worked for us. That's
Yeah.
what we decided on. Young mother, again, that was a choice that we made. But I don't see that so much anymore, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that anymore. I do think just like, 50s and 60s, people were getting married, as teenagers or as
Yeah.
young adults, and then they didn't continue to pursue education. Although some families did push that, it could be maybe written off as generational, but not everyone's outlook will be the same regarding that. Yeah. And so it's just, I think, a matter of nowadays making sure that there is a collective overview that's accurately depicting our services right now, because it's very, very important. We both know visibility counts for so much, and we need to make sure that these families who make up the majority of the military are receiving a lot of support, whether that's, Air Force Aid Society for, just an incident they may not have prepared adequately for,
Yeah.
or just continued assistance because now their child is on EFMP, but they don't understand what that program is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we have Janet with Esposas Militares. That's
Oh, I love
fantastic.
Janet.
Exactly. We need to have those programs because that is reflective of who we have in the military. We need to ensure that our spouses are taken care of because we already know, our spouses are good to go, the families are good to go. That is just going to provide additional support for our active duty members, for our veterans, to be honest with you, right? And that's what we truly want, is just a well-rounded, supported force. Hopefully that leads to greater retention.
Yeah.
We don't know, hopefully that will. But there's so much that we can continue to do. And I think that just ensuring that we're messaging that the right way really will help to just help others feel included. Like, yeah, you are welcome to come,
Get
you
out
don't
of your
have to
bubble.
well, listen, I'm super guilty of having just a super fortified bubble. So again,
Yeah.
it doesn't befall me that, again, some of the impediments that I experienced, which were, honestly, looking back, far and few between, they were self-imposed. I can say that. I want to ensure that people, understand that I'm not playing my little tiny violin because I have 2 gaps in my resume compared to a spouse who has just had to follow her service member across the world 18 times. We did not PCS that many times, right? But I absolutely understand the difficulties when PCSs do arise, or when, orders change at the last minute and now you're no longer going to the location you were super excited for. You're actually going over here.
Yeah.
It happens, right? And it's just, I think, a matter of, again, making sure that we in the military community, whether we're spouses of active duty or veterans, we know that we are truly here for each other. We're not just saying that with words, but we're demonstrating that with our presence.
Daily, you're demonstrating it by taking care of each other.
Yeah.
And again, especially our military spouses. All right. So talk to me a little bit about how you got the opportunity to go and work for Hiring Our Heroes.
Okay. So when we got to San Antonio, like I said, after that rough and tumble PCS, once we got settled in the new house, I began looking for work. So actually, before we even PCS'd, I began applying for jobs. And I'm going to tell you, this is where I kind of fell behind again, the curve, because immediately I'm thinking USA jobs. But, I'm thinking people just push that so much. It's just like, hey, you should go look into government, blah, blah, blah. So I was a NAF employee in Okinawa. So to me, I'm like, that's a natural progression. I'll go ahead and take a look at some of the GS work. And we're coming to San Antonio. It's huge. It's Military City, USA. I'm not going to have a job. Right, yeah. I'm able to have an even more expanded and in-depth resume. My experience is more specialized. I had no problem. until I had the problem, right?
Yeah.
Get to San Antonio, and like your wife experienced in Okinawa, it took, I want to say, over a year for me to get a job here. Maybe not quite a year, but to me, that was a long time.
Yeah.
A long time. And I tell you what, that's when I think a lot of the doubt began to go ahead and just kind of take over. But going back to the bubble, that is 100% what happened with
Yeah.
me, because I was so uncomfortable reaching out. And it was just like, okay, you have to network. You have to just
Are
begin
you an
connecting.
introvert or extrovert?
Quincy, am I an introvert or an extrovert?
You're an introvert.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And so that was on full display, and to the point where my husband had to be the one to encourage me to go. Anyhow, flashing forward, I had just by randomly, a random chance, seen a military spouse career summit. Or I'm sorry, yes, career summit, I think, on Facebook, and I was like, well, okay, fine, I might as well. So I registered, got my outfit together, got my, resume together as it stated in the registration, and was prepared to go the next morning. That night, I started getting, the nerves, right?
Nervous.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to go by myself. I don't know anyone there. I just don't think I'm going to go. Coming up with every excuse, right? Honestly thankful to my husband, because he was like, no, you need to go. Go ahead. I already took the days off to watch the kids, our youngest. And I was like, okay, fine. So there I go by myself, feeling like, I don't know, a first grader at a brand new school in a whole new country, right?
Yeah.
And I get to this huge campus, and it's beautiful, and it's just so expansive. And then I start seeing everyone else, and I just felt so out of place, but not because anyone made me feel out of place. It was me.
Yeah.
And then it began, and I sat down, and I met ladies from DC that were so helpful, honestly. And I still remember their names, but they were just so helpful with, providing guidance. And they had come from DC specifically to facilitate portions of the summit. And in the entirety of the session, it was just wonderful to sit
Yeah.
there and listen. Because again, I'm an observer, so I sat there and I took my notes and I listened, and I was like, okay, fine. I have to begin implementing some of these things, and utilizing these resources that they've discussed. Right? That was like in October, November of 2019.
Okay.
Well, then we know what happened a few months later.
COVID.
Right, yeah. And so at that time, my husband was still active duty. And so I felt refreshed after the summit, and I began working more on my resume and just kind of getting everything together, making sure that I had tailored resumes for roles that I saw. And I felt better. And I began, putting out resumes and applications, and I started finally getting hits, right?
Yeah.
So super excited about that. I had gone for 2 interviews at this one company here in San Antonio, scheduled for the final, which at this point I had to produce a project and just a short facilitation. I was ready to go. That was the week before they shut everything down.
Wow.
I was just devastated. I finally felt better about myself, and then that happened. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But the email was not definitive, right? Like
Yeah.
It was not, we're going to just do away with this requisition. It was kind of like a TBD.
Okay.
Yeah. So rough. Mind you, we were working towards retirement. We had been working towards retirement for years. We already knew when he was going to do that. So thankfully, he'd already been communicating and honestly taking some information from the coworkers within his area, the veterans, and that was just
That
immensely
network,
helpful.
huh?
Absolutely, just immensely helpful, because he was good to go. I didn't have to worry too much about him. He was very communicative with me.
Yeah.
And so, we were discussing things, making decisions together, just as we'd always done.
Yeah.
I do kind of credit that to the fact that we honestly kind of grew up together. We were very young when we
guys
got
knew each
together.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we're able to just kind of set aside some of emotion if we have that going on, and just really, hey, we need to get this done. Let's take this and complete this. And so that's what we were working towards. And then COVID hit.
Wow.
And so what I was working towards got put on hold. He had already, I think, a couple roles lined up for interviews. Those got put on hold. So plan A for retirement, stay in San Antonio. We had these children. The oldest had to, PCS in the middle of his junior year from Okinawa to San Antonio. Didn't want to do that again with our other kids. So we were like, we're going to stay in San Antonio. That's what we're going to do. We had bought the house, everything else. But we always knew plan B was go back home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And COVID hit. And so we were like, we're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see. Nobody knew, right? No one had ever in our lifetime, I think, had really ever had to deal with anything like that. So we just thought it's going to pass. No, we had to go ahead and implement Plan B. And that was just, I don't even know if I can put to words the way that that felt, because I felt that we were finally kind of at a steady, pace. And then boom, now we have to really not even pivot again, just that veer completely off course, which is what took place. So we did. We went back. He already had a job, and we went back to New Mexico and took took our whole family back there. And I hated it.
I'm sure. You had grown, you had evolved at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to go back.
100%. Yeah. And we were there 4 months. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
We had kept our home. We had tenants. We had rented it out. And
so you'd kept the home here?
We had kept the home in San Antonio, yeah. Because our goal was to go over there. And then, of course, just once we get settled, start looking at houses. Listen, when I tell you that the Lord was like, Olivia, you were not meant to stay in New Mexico.
Not.
When I was just like, I can't be here anymore. The kids didn't enjoy it like they used to. Visiting is one thing. When we went back to live as residents, a completely different situation.
Yeah.
New Mexico is beautiful.
Yeah.
My husband has very deep roots there, and that's fine. I'm from El Paso. It was just made sense, in regard to like the family situation. I did not want to be there.
Yeah.
And again, I'm super thankful for my husband and the fact that we can talk about things without it leading to, catastrophic conversations. I was like, I can't do this. And he was like, okay, fine. And I said, I'm gonna start looking for jobs there. He said, okay, babe, if you find a job, then we'll go back. We'll worry about the house. I said, okay. And so I did what I had to do. I popped that super fortified bubble. I took out my list of things that, the resources that I had taken from the Career Summit, and I reached out to someone on LinkedIn. I honestly reached out to her just to ask her about her job.
Yeah.
And what she ended up doing was like, hey, so I'm actually leaving to this other job, but send me your resume and I'll give it to my boss. I said, done. Shot her my resume, and that was like on a Thursday. By that Tuesday, her boss had already emailed me back and was like, hey, so can we conduct an interview? Blah, blah, blah. Conducted the virtual interview because COVID, and that was it. I had a job offer within, I think it was like 2 weeks. Done.
Wow.
Yeah. So
LinkedIn worked.
LinkedIn worked. It's not my favorite thing in the world just because I think it's kind of evolved past its original intention.
Yeah.
But yes, LinkedIn worked. I'm going to be honest with you.
Nice.
It's true.
The young lady who was leaving that passed your resume on, was she a military spouse?
She was a military spouse.
So the network worked.
Yeah. And I went ahead and I never met that lady before in my life.
Yeah.
Ever. Until I got back to San Antonio. And I made full intention to go ahead and seek her out and give her the biggest, like, hi, I'm a stranger, but you did this for me kind of hug. And she was great. And I think you probably have met her.
Yeah.
But then, a couple of years later, the same thing happened to me. Someone reached out to me and was like, Olivia, I'm coming from Fort Bliss, of all places, and we're coming to San Antonio, and I have this experience, and I'm just really looking for a job. I said, okay, well, I know someone who does the same thing. Let me transfer it to her. So I sent that resume over, and within the next month, I saw the spouse that had reached out to me. She was updating her LinkedIn profile because she had just been able to receive that job offer. I'm like, this is what we need to do, is just pay it forward, Pay
it forward.
Absolutely. I'm not here to do any type of, self-advertising. I don't want to be the public image because, again, at the core of everything, yes, I can talk, but I am a true introvert. I don't want to be in the front.
Yeah,
I want
it doesn't give you energy.
It does not. It drains me. But it may drain me, but I am re-energized by speaking with individuals that I know, hey, maybe you just need somebody to, vent to or unload on. I'm right here. We're going to do it within reason, but I'm here to help you in regard to that. I'm here to help you connect if that's something that you feel you're having some discomfort with. And I say discomfort because that was my biggest challenge here in San Antonio, was just the discomfort of reaching out to a stranger, right?
Yeah.
But me reaching out to that stranger, it really did just offset the trajectory that we were on once my husband retired from the military. And at this point, both of us right now, that was 5 years ago? He retired over 5 years ago. At this point now, I can honestly say we wouldn't be where we're at professionally. We wouldn't be where we're at, personally with our family. I'm talking specifically like our children. Had we not come back to San Antonio and just established ourselves?
Yeah, because you would have been miserable.
I just, to your point, really. And I felt that way from the beginning. Once we said, yes, let's go back, and we got there, just putting my feet on that ground, I was like, oh, it's beautiful. We have the best memories, but I've grown past, beyond some of these things. and just taking a realistic look at everything, the job opportunities for myself. The schooling was different for my kids because that was something that, the younger ones would have been fine with. They had friends there, we had a life there before we went to Japan, but it was just not for me. And although
and that's fair.
it is fair, I think 100% it's fair. And I think that at times saying that sometimes sounds a bit selfish, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I told my husband, this is my time to be selfish because
you support it.
Right. And it's something that we collectively chose to do. Like that was his commitment, after I'm done, babe, I'll follow you. Cool. Okay. So then we're going to go ahead and put that into action. Although I had not really meant to hold his feet, to the fire in that way.
Yeah.
It happened and we're here now. Right. And I don't ever forget, what my experiences were, because I know that again, someone is having even worse time.
Having a worse time. As which, we've all heard those horror stories from military spouses. But, going back to something you said earlier, determination and getting out of your bubble, right? You have to network. You have to kind of be vulnerable and put yourself out there to find that right opportunity for you, and know that there are folks out there that are that will help you get set up for success. As we get ready to close, right? Talk a little bit about what you're currently working on.
What am I working on? I'm going to just be real, I guess. Real. I'm just going to be real. Real I'm working on, honestly, is really just trying to broaden the view of military spouses, military dependent children, veterans, transitioning members. And when I say that, what I'm talking about is not just employment opportunities. I'm going to get on a soapbox just for a second. So when it comes to this, I think the beauty of what I'm doing right now and the freedom that I have right now is to really just shine a light on transition itself.
Okay.
I think that oftentimes when we talk about transition, so much emphasis is placed on employment, which rightfully so. So many transitioning members are not going to just retire and call it a day, right?
Really?
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 Are you? Is that what you're doing?
No.
Okay. Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I have no problem. Okay. But for me, working with honestly, at this point, hundreds and hundreds of transitioning members and some of their wives, it's not employment that is causing a lot of the disruption within their lives.
Yeah.
It is the actual preparation for the transition process itself.
Okay.
The actual process, right. So, do you disagree or do you feel?
No, because
what are your thoughts? I guess that's what I should ask.
So my thoughts on that, I think you're right, but it's job fulfillment, which goes into what you're saying, right? X amount of years in the military, in a sense, you may be set up for success for life, right, financially, if you put the right things in place. But it's always about job fulfillment, right? I knew and felt that I can go out and get a job. Military paid for me to get my degree. They've gave me certain skills and tools and skill sets to use to be successful. I can get a job, but can I find job fulfillment? Can I be passionate about working as an HOA community manager? Absolutely not, right? But that's something, you could have told me that, but that's something that I had to go through. Okay. Right, to understand what that looks like. So yes and no to your comment.
Just to kind of clarify what my intention was saying that, or what I meant by that was, yes, employment's going to be extremely important. But I think that even before we get to that point of employment, we have to do a better job of making sure that an individual is prepared to transition.
Yeah.
And it's not
and that's a hard thing to do, though.
Right. Well, no, I completely understand.
Yeah.
And that opens a whole, not even a can of worms. And I know that but ensuring or trying to speak with someone to guide them, okay, are you ready? Are you sure? That's just a whole list of things that need to be covered.
Yeah.
So and that's what I'm saying. It's not just employment. It's a holistic view of everything.
We have some docs in the building that I'm sure would comment on some of those.
Right. And I mean, it's just so much emphasis is placed on your resume. Every day, you were there, right? At the most recent event, people should not have to there should not be anxiety inducing situations when it comes to that, right? There are so many resources available, and yet I can 100% understand why they feel the way that they feel when it comes to employment. I think that, working with the companies that I've had the ability to, and the pleasure of partnering with, of working with, They do a great job, some better than others, but there needs to be amount of grace provided to our transitioning members and the
Yeah.
families. I say it this way all the time. These individuals, whether they've been in the military 4 years, 24 years, 34 years, they're getting out and now they're having to restructure the way that they think,
Yeah.
the way that they move, the way that they speak, and they're given a year or less, right? You got to get it together
6 months.
in a year or less.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. And when we're talking about some of the individuals that are being medically retired, it's even less.
Yeah.
You know, and on top of that, the service member is having to deal with the out processing,
Yeah.
making
The
sure
VA,
everything's
the
everything,
housing.
all of that. And
Yeah.
the spouses, like, here, what are we going to do? What are, what's going on and what's up next? There's just so much going on that I don't think is really provided enough attention. It's a lot of focus on employment, which I totally understand.
Or can me as the military member or the active duty member, can I release the reins to my spouse to be in control to go out and make some of those decisions?
That's a personal decision because,
But-
again, so to answer your question, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a part of it.
right. We are, the epitome of that because I don't have a spouse that has chosen to, what's going on here. I don't have a micromanager. We are
Yeah.
a team. And like I said, I don't know if that's because we kind of essentially grew up together through
Yeah.
young adulthood or what the case may be, but we do what can I say? We move well with each other. We know
Yeah.
where to fill in the gaps. I know what he's better at. He knows what I'm better
Strengths
at.
and weaknesses.
And we allow ourselves to go ahead and take care of business, right?
Yeah.
That's not always the case. That's not always the
No,
case. And
it's
we
not.
see that. And we see where information is not relayed to the spouse.
Yeah.
And so we have someone who has gone to TAPS and is not thinking about TAPS because he's thinking about getting his resume taken care of or
Yeah.
setting up his appointment with the DAV. And now the spouse needs to know what's going to happen with medical after he retires. And he doesn't know what to tell her because he wasn't paying attention because he's got all these other.
Yeah.
It just
That
turns
was-
into this whole, chaotic cloud of just misinformation.
Yeah.
And it just does not serve a family well at all. And then we're looking at now disruptions within marital families,
Yeah.
and we don't want that. That's what we want to be able to not necessarily combat because sometimes for people that's a better decision. But we want to be able to adjust challenges and provide support and resources, tangible resources and tangible support so that they can navigate through transition smoothly.
Yeah.
I don't know if people feel that that's actually obtainable. I know that it is.
It's obtainable.
One
But-
year is not enough. I mean, I
No.
can tell you when someone,
No.
just like I said, the event, someone came up to me and I said, well, how long do you have before you retire? 5 years. I said, you really only have about
Yeah.
3. Well, what do you mean, like TAPS? No, we went into this whole discussion. And then what did I do? Guided him over to one of my veteran counterparts because I have worked with service members. I have guided them as they've jumped into the military. I have guided them as they've come out of the military.
Yeah.
I can see that from my perspective. I walked right next to my husband during both of those situations. Regardless of my experience assisting in that area, I have not done that myself. I want to ensure that if someone is coming to me for guidance regarding transition, yes, they can get my expertise that I've been able to acquire and obtain through my my roles, my volunteerism, et cetera. But I'm going to connect them with a veteran
Yeah.
because you know the language that they're speaking.
Yeah.
You can sit there and attest to what they're feeling without using words. And I think that those are areas that we don't recognize enough. We don't spend enough
The
time.
human side.
We touch on it, and then we're like, "Hey, let's go talk about, let's go
Go
talk
smoke
about
cigars
building
or-
your brand."
Yeah, building your brand.
Listen, that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation. But it's important.
Oh no, it's
but
important,
another
right? But
conversation.
but it's a different perspective when it comes to
Yeah.
how far,
How
and
far
the
out.
emphasis of things, right? When it comes to building your brand, but it's rough. Transition's rough.
Transition's rough. It's doable. If I
Absolutely.
can survive it
Same.
off of my limited knowledge and boneheadedness, I mean, the average Joe probably can,
Oh, I
or
agree,
Joette
yeah.
can probably do it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very interesting and hopefully impactful conversation with my
Hopefully,
good
yes.
friend. Many are called, but few are chosen. As we close, right? What do people get when they get you? And I know you've dropped some of those nuggets here and there, but I'm curious, like what comes to mind when people get you?
They get the real Olivia. There's really no other way to put that. I have a small group of true friends. I have a wide group of associates and peers, which I value. But those who know me well. They know that top of my list is genuine authenticity. I don't feel that we can adequately connect with individuals and create those organic conversations and relationships without just being just 100% sincere. I am a huge opponent of performative empathy, and
We've had that conversation.
we've had that conversation. Um, and it's a disservice to the community that we live in, a disservice to the community that we're trying to assist, right? So when you get me, I'm a hugger. You're going to say hi to me, if you want to. I 100% respect that. But I will absolutely be here to lend an ear, to provide support. If I don't know the answer, I will seek out someone who does. That's just something that I've always been able to do. That's something that I have and hold dear because I know that that's been done for me. Yeah. And this is not for me. I may work for a company or an organization in the capacity of a military-focused X, Y, and Z program. I'm working for that company, but in all reality, I'm working for you, right? Yeah. So that's, I feel that with myself, I always want to make sure that I'm aligning like action with intention because again, I need to see that tangible impact, not for me, but I want to know that the impact is real and that someone is taken care of because I think it's so easy to take our eyes off of the central focus and figure and just kind of get lost in all of the posts and,
social media blitz.
Yeah, the posts and the selfies and everything else. And that's all well and good. I 100%, that's fun. I like to do that. We build community that way as well. But at the end of the day, you're going to get nothing but, hey, this is Olivia. She's here for you. Let's go ahead and set up that one-on-one so that it is just one-on-one. And we're going to do that one-on-one without having to take a selfie because this is what we are about. This is what we need to do. It needs to be 100% real from A to B, and that's it. There does not need to be any continued marketing or advertising for any other purpose. This is someone's life. That's how I see it, right? It's someone's life that you're affecting, either negatively or positively. And, I was that person. I was the one on the other end of that seat. So I 100% understand how that feels.
Love it. Love it.
I hope so.
This has been Military Transition Conversations with myself, Quincy Harper, and my good friend Olivia Valerio. Shout out to Cortez Riggs and the Military Influencer Conference that's coming up in September. Shout out to Chatterbox. Shout out to Johnny Valdez. We thank you and have a good night.